This is Group 1, Invasive Species, Ecosystem Services, and Human Well-Being. What are invasive alien species, or IAS? Invasive alien species are not native to the area, habitat, or species and harm the environment, economy, or even human health. IAS can invade in various ways. One way they can invade is through transportation by boat, planes, and live food trades. A second way they can invade is intentional release, which is by releasing a non related pet or live bait or an illegal stalking and trading of animals into a new environment. A third way is an accidental release, which can occur by domesticated animals escaping or aquatic farming, dry docks, or science labs. In the US, there's approximately 50,000 non native species. And an example of a non native species in the US is zebra mussels. And they're actually native to the Black Caspian seas, and they were introduced to North America. They were brought over by being attached to boats, and then they slowly invaded the fresh waters, and they grow so quickly that their population is overwhelming to freshwater species.
Although there are many negative effects caused by invasive species, there also are some benefits. Providing services can be defined as food, fiber, and fuel. When red-berried juniper was introduced in Texas, it was able to increase livestock production and increase water in aquifers. There is also an invasive tree in Florida that has positively impacted honey production. Invasive species can also have a positive impact on rural low-income communities. For example, Ocean pinus were introduced in South Africa and was used for hatching timber, medicine, and charcoal. Invasive species can provide benefits for regulating services. This can be defined as clean water, pollution, disease regulation, and soil stabilization. Some non-native species can increase water filtration and purification, like the zebra mussels. Non-native honeybees can help pollinate crops in North America, which is worth $14.8 billion. Cultural services can also benefit. Cultural services can be defined as recreation and tourism, history, aesthetic beauty, education, and more. Invasive species can transform landscapes for better or for worse and are valued for inspiration, spirituality, religion, and tradition. Invasive species cost the United States $128 billion to $131 billion annually. Invasive species reduce crop yields. The yellow star thistle, which is an invasive species in California, hurts cows and costs the U.S. $7.65 million. Salt cedar along streams consumes more water, costing the U.S. $26.3 to $67.8 million in water loss. There is also a cost for regulating services. Invasive species replace native plant species and affects the amount of CO2 released into the air and then contributing to climate change. Water purification is also negatively affected. For example, grazing aquatic plants transform wetland across Southeast Asia to places filled with algae. Soil stabilization is also affected. Invasive species increases fires and flood and increases risk of human communities. An example of this is the introduction of tamarisk, a cost estimated to be about $52 million annually in damages. Some invasive plants can serve as a habitat for disease. For example, a strand of lantana can be found in a fly. Lastly, cultural services are affected. Imported fire ants have cost billions of dollars in medical services for stings, damage to electrical equipment, and crop losses in southern United States.
On the next slides, we examine the case studies analyzed in the article in order to obtain a realistic picture of the impact IAS can have in nature as well as in the community. The introduction of woody plants, IAS, in South Africa seemed like a solution in supplying the community with fuel, wood, and building supplies. However, it brought along problems such as high rates of evapotranspiration, leading to loss of hydrological services. Woody plants also impacted pollination services, ecotourism, and the displacement of the native fynbos plants that are used as medicine. The introduction of the zebra mussels to the Great Lakes, USA is another example of IAS impact analyzed in the article. Zebra mussels are extremely efficient filter feeders that increase water clarity. Although the introductions have mostly been accidental, this IAS had many unanticipated impacts on a host of ecosystem services. They clog water pipes, coat boats and docks, and also bioaccumulate toxics in birds and fishes that are consumed by the community. Because of the clear economical impact, zebra mussels are particularly well quantified, as we can see on the table.
To control invasive species. So some examples of a control measure that have been implemented for invasive species by humans. There's three different ones: so biological, mechanical, and chemical control mechanisms have been put in place. So biological control is just the international manipulation of natural enemies by humans for the purpose of controlling pests. So that's just humans simply stepping in and being the one to control pests. Mechanical control includes mowing, hoeing, cultivation, and hand pulling. And then the final one is chemical control, is the use of herbicides to stop the growth and spread of invasive species, and some other ideas for control methods. So if you see something, say something. So that basically means if you see an invasive species, report it. Another way we can stop it is not moving firewood. It's often made out of dead trees or dying trees, and that's often a host to critters. So not moving firewood is another good way we can stay on top of controlling these things. And then keeping your hiking and fishing gear clean is super, super important, so bacteria and other organisms are not able to grow. Alright, so just to kind of wrap things up and to conclude, first, I just want to stop and show you a couple pictures of some invasive species that are found in Kentucky, like the Asian carp and the zebra mussels. So it's important to recognize and be able to notify someone if you do see them around you. And why is it important, and why do we care? What's the take-home message from all of this? Paying attention to invasive species is crucially important, and I didn't necessarily realize that until taking part in this project, but now I realize that if they're not native to the area, they will harm the environment that they develop in, and could potentially even harm humans. So it's important to be able to recognize these species and know how to slow and prevent the spread of them for the future. And I think that's the biggest take-home message, is to be able, as humans, to be able to recognize what is going on around us and in our environment. And invasive species are just one of the many, many things that we need to take note of. And they can cause harm to our economy as well. So it's not just physical, mental, and environmental things that can occur. they can also affect things that don't necessarily relate to science. So it's crucially important to know what they are, and we just want to spread awareness about them.